Enron was one of the largest energy companies in the US back in 2001. But Enron's management played the fool with their financial statements.
Guilty verdicts in the biggest case of corporate fraud in history. 38 counts of fraud and conspiracy.
Lawyers for Jeffrey Skilling and Kenneth Lay threw around complicated notions about margin.
They inflated revenues to paint a flowery picture in front of their investors.
Enron Online will change the markets. It is real simple. You turn on your computer and it's right there. That's our vision. We're trying to change the world.
They did mark-to-market accounting, which was not allowed as per GAAP. Enron had a lot of debt on their balance sheet. Now, do investors like debt? No. So Enron said, let's not show it to them. Enron created many special purpose vehicles to hide that debt from Enron's balance sheet. Basically, Enron's management committed an accounting fraud. And naturally, when this came out, Enron was forced to file for bankruptcy.
Instructed by my counsel not to testify.
Enron is a company, deals with everyone with absolute integrity. We play by...
The problem didn't end there. The auditors of Enron were Arthur Andersen, which was one of the big five back then. So today you have the big four. Back in 2001, it was the big five. And Arthur Andersen was amongst the biggest of the big five. And Arthur Andersen expressed a clean, unqualified opinion on Enron's fraudulent financial statements. So when Enron's fraud came out, the question to Arthur Andersen was, how come you guys didn't notice?
A Houston jury convicted Arthur Andersen of obstruction of justice and its role in the collapse of Enron. Andersen has already lost more than a third of its clients, and today's verdict could put the embattled Andersen out of business.
Things went so bad that Arthur Andersen was asked to surrender its CPA license in the US, and the Big Five became Big Four.
People that made some wrong decisions, and it's just unfortunate that everyone has to suffer.
Enron goes out of business, Arthur Andersen shuts shop, and investors press the panic button.
The stock market is now down 20%.
It is in the wake of all this panic that the US Congress enacts the Sarbanes Oxley Act in 2002, or as we call it, SOX. A lot of provisions in SOX were learnings that the US senators had from the Enron scandal. For instance, when Enron's CEO was investigated as to how come there was no internal controls at Enron, he replied that he was the CEO of the company, and how would he know about internal controls? It was not his job. So SOX made it clear that management is not just responsible for the financials, they are also responsible for their internal controls. SOX also created the PCAOB, that's the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, whose job is to regulate the auditors of issuers or public companies. And after SOX, the auditors of issuers are now required to do two audits and express two opinions. Number one on the financial statements, and number two on internal controls over financial reporting. Now, both these audits go hand in hand, and that's why we call this an integrated audit. All US issuers and their subsidiaries around the world are required to comply with US regulations, including SOX or FCPA, that's the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Let's say subsidiaries of US companies like Amazon or Google or Coca-Cola in India follow Ind AS. But ultimately, all these financial statements need to get converted to US GAAP for consolidation with the US parent. The list of US issuers also includes Indian companies like Tata Motors, ICICI, HDFC Bank, Infosys, Wipro, Dr. Reddy's Labs. Now, these companies are listed in India and accountable to SEBI. But since they've also raised money from the US, they are also accountable to the US SEC, the US Securities and Exchange Commission, and they have to comply with the US federal securities laws. So guys, you now understand why all of the big four and multinational companies recruit thousands of Miles CPA alumni every year. And you too can earn your CPA and scale up your career. All you have is 4 exams which you can pass in the next 12 months. Are you ready?